This is the valve on a tyre of an electric unicycle. As you can see, the valve is pretty much straight up and down again, but what I noticed is that I had my tyre slightly spongy when riding it to give it a bit more squish and make it a bit softer to ride. But unfortunately what happens, I've found, is that as you travel along, the tyre is being massaged by the road as you drive along it, and the tube is being massaged in the sort of opposite direction, and this nut here had come loose, and what had happened is the valve had ended up like over on an angle. I've straightened it up now, but it was over on an angle. And I think back to my blowout that I had recently, and I was going along at speed and the tyre just blew out completely flat in like under 2 seconds, I would imagine. It was completely stone flat. And I, of course, have never had a blowout on an electric unicycle at speed, and thankfully I was able to ride fine and just pulled over and the tyre was stone flat, and which was good, so I'm pleased about that. But what had happened is the base of this valve, the tube had snapped away from it, and I think back to then and I think to myself, it was probably the same effect of running a slightly softer tyre, and as the tyre is travelling along, it's being massaged and it's slowly pulling the tube in one direction. Of course, the tube is only hanging on to the rim by this one point, and at some point you stretch it far enough and it will snap and just completely blow out instantly while you're travelling. And I had this other idea this morning of, well, if I rode my unicycle backwards for half the time by putting my pads on back to front and riding the thing backwards, the tyre, the inner tube would be being massaged back the other way. So it's probably likely that it would potentially solve that problem. But it's, a bit of an ambulance at the bottom of the cliff as far as the design of an inner tube and the valve goes, and this whole idea of having an inflatable inner tube. Anyway, I thought I'd mention all that because it is quite interesting. Still very hard to get this bead on the rim, this edge of the tyre line to line up with the edge of the rim nicely all the way around. It's very hard to do. It's surprising. I'm jumping on it with my knee and, all this sort of thing, and massaging the tyre and then jumping on it, trying to get this to go down and pumping it up and letting it down and pumping it up. And yeah, it's a bit of a pain in the neck. Anyway, the gist of the video is I don't think I'm going to ride with a semi-inflated tyre anymore. I'm going to have this thing pumped up rock hard at the expense of my knees and back, but at the saviour of my tube, where the valve meets the tube in there. I don't want that to snap off. So hence I'm riding with it rock hard. There you go. Good luck. Be careful. I'm going to demo how I, because I didn't want to take the wheel apart to straighten up this valve. So what I did is I deflated the tyre and then I squeezed on here, pulling the rim this way but pushing the tyre that way. So I was going, yeah, like that, and then just worked my way around, squeezing, round and round and round, and so sort of like that. And I just kept doing that round and round and round until that valve slowly straightened up, and it took ages. And like, to get this little edge on here is still not perfect. You can see it's crooked, but it is like, oh my god, trying to get that straight. I've tried on that thing. Anyway, that's how I did that.